Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. How are you doing, Forrest, Joe, Brandon? Everything going good on this Tuesday evening or morning, wherever you are?
Still good.
Yeah, everything's good, man. It's interesting times as always with Bitcoin. I think everybody I listened to the podcast last week and you guys were talking about how price is what brings people into Bitcoin and price is pretty low. So, like the people that are here now, they're here for well, they might still be here for price, but they have at least a long-term vision of it, right? And they're thinking these are good buying times. But there's people here now that are here for other reasons as well, more of the radical revolutionary reasons, which is pretty cool. And yeah, just appreciate everybody tuning in, basically, to
Yeah,
start it off with.
I think there's like two, I think Brandon always says there can be two things true at once. You can be here for the price and for the freedom aspect. Like both things are actually good. Like it's always like, oh, like I love freedom and this and that. I don't care about the price. Yeah, I get that. But you're happy when the price goes up. You're listening to the price also. And the same reason is like, oh yeah, like I don't care about the freedom aspect. Yeah, then you really don't get Bitcoin that much. If you just disregard self-custody, running your node, doing all of that, you haven't figured out Bitcoin to the full extent. Price is part of the discussion, even though I love Jeff Booth and like he always pulls me a little bit more in the direction of like I shouldn't care that much about the Bitcoin, the fiat price of Bitcoin. How are you guys thinking about that?
I think it's kind of interesting because of course, many things can be true all at once, but there are a lot of people who have gotten into Bitcoin because of price, and they actually are restricting themselves from a lot of the freedom that comes with Bitcoin because they're buying ETFs, they're buying MSTR, and they're totally fine with that. They're like, well, I invest in all this TradFi assets as well, and I don't care that I don't have custody of these. These could be rug pulled from me if I, said something wrong to the wrong, people or something, right? Like, so they don't care about that aspect of freedom. I mean, there's freedom with wealth as well. So like they do get that side of it as Bitcoin goes up in wealth. They acquire freedom, but a lot of the sovereignty freedom aspects are lost on many people until they learn a lesson. I think a lot of people have to learn that lesson or be interested in that ahead of time or become interested in that for some other reason.
Yeah, just quickly here, I see a comment from Timothy Harris said, curious if anyone else got a postal letter from CoinKite telling them to scan a QR to do an important security. It was a quantum update, I think. So CoinKite's way ahead of the game here, but that was indeed a scam letter. So for anybody out there who received, it's kind of interesting though, because CoinKite claimed that they never got a data breach or got hacked. That's what NVK is saying. But then there's also people I've talked to who actually don't have a cold card and they also got a letter about it. So that to me would suggest that CoinKite is truthful, which, you'd hope anyways for an industry like this. But it sounds like, I don't know how they would have acquired the addresses of people, some maybe through an IP address that were looking at the CoinKite or just had other affiliation with Bitcoin and just assumed that they were maybe cold card users. But yeah, that was definitely a scam. So if anybody received a letter from CoinKite, just throw in the mail, never think about it again. But yeah, boys, I got called a Bitcoin extremist last week. Bitcoin extremist, he said, I think you're an extremist when it comes to Bitcoin and you still live in a bit of a fantasy world thinking that Bitcoin will overturn the current system. So that's where I am right now. Somebody mentioned a Bitcoin extremist or revolutionist, but yeah, I mean, this is just part of it. It's part of it. And I think that these times in Bitcoin, it sucks for some people. I think that the only people that this really sucks for right now is people who are maybe hoping to retire off of their Bitcoin in this year or next year. And also the people who live on a Bitcoin standard. But if you're neither of those two, then you should be pretty happy right now. You're getting more sats. And I think that the four of us and probably most people in the chat are still in accumulation mode in Bitcoin. So, I mean, it's just another day. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, though, where this is going to go over these next couple months with the big 250 in America, the soft fork coming in August. and then the bottom calls in October. I don't know if there's a more interesting time to be in Bitcoin than right here, right now.
250, you mean America gets to 50 years old?
Yeah, I just feel like there's something going to come out of America in that sense, and it's going to be related to the Treasury, the Fed, the stock market. And then I've been seeing a few other rumblings of that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. That's just my absolute speculation. But there, I don't think it's just going to come and go without any sort of something big happening. That's just my prediction.
So you're a Bitcoin extremist, and maybe we're all Bitcoin extremists. It sounds like whoever you're talking to is a fiat apologist. That's what it sounds like. It's just and it's funny. We talked about this before. Like Larry Fink says, Bitcoin's a trade of fear, and he's right and he's wrong. Bitcoin itself is hope, and it's his first time humans have ever discovered money, so that gives you hope. Reorient the architecture, the incentives of society, put consumers and producers on the same side of the table. We could go on and on. So there's unbelievable hope and abundance possible there that we've never had in all of human history, the chance for that. But the fear part comes in, and this is where it goes back to the fiat apologist and someone like that who looks at a Bitcoiner as an extremist. It's just someone who doesn't plain and simple understand the system that they live in. Or they've been sold this lie, this Keynesian, Fabian, socialist, communist lie for 100+ years. And that's all anyone studied. I mean, James Thorne was on Mark Moss's podcast the other day, and he's been a great follow on Twitter for a while now. And I've just been following him a lot over the last 6 months. So it was good to see him on a pod. And, he talked a lot about this. Jim Rickards used to talk about this a lot. I'd followed him a lot 15, 20 years ago. And, I don't know if Jim's a spook or not. He's done a lot of war gaming with the Pentagon back in like the 90s and stuff in the 2000s. But he would always talk about that he went to grad school in like the early 70s, by 74, like gold had already been taken out of like the MBA, the finance books, everything, which is part of the plan. It's like, how does it come out that easy? Nothing happens that quickly in education. Like it's like one of the slowest moving things in all of society. So it's like, it just kind of shows you where we are. And people have been brainwashed in this old system for so long that they're just the frog in the boiling pot. How does a frog know he's wet if been in the water? A fish know he's been wet if he's been in the water his whole life? It's just so hard to tell. So you have people that look at you in contrast and they see you as an extremist, when in reality, as a Bitcoiner, when you know what you know, you're like the most docile, just like I'm just existing. I'm just here in saving and sound money, saving my time and energy, and saying, no, I don't want it stolen away from me. And the fiat apologists, the people that are denominating their life in dollars, that's the psychosis. That's like, you look at them and you're like, dude, are you okay? Like, is everything all right? Blink twice if you're, and that's what we're dealing with going forward. We're gonna be dealing with it for a while. So it's just, it's very, very fascinating. And then America's 250, I totally agree. I mean, I think that and James Thorne talked about this a fair amount, and this is now making the rounds a lot more over the last few months. We talked about the Iran war, this American system, the Hamiltonian system, I believe it was Henry Clay, back from 200 years ago. This system's reemerging. It's the tariff stuff, all the stuff, the industrial age that was then pre-Federal Reserve, sound money standard, all of this. This is what's reemerging right now. And whether Trump is successful or not, or when Trump leaves, eventually he'll be gone, or Vance and Rubio, all these guys are gone. I think once again, the toothpaste is out of the tube, meaning just like Trump broke the media in 2016, and he could have left after that because the media exposed themselves for who they were. That can't go backward. And so now you have this system where people realize Warsh, Besant, all these guys, they're expanding the supply of things instead of this Keynesian, we're going to destroy demand, or we're going to try to get in demand going because of interest rates and all this garbage, all this nonsense. It's no, we're just going to manufacture more shit than you. We're just going to produce more and be better, capitalists. And we're just going to build more pies. We're going to build bigger pie. And that's what will end up having prices come down actually in the long run. And so the energy and where I'm going with all this is just the energy. So you see with the AI, the data centers, the mining centers, all this stuff coming together. If you don't see that the energy is the big play going forward, whether it's nuclear stuff or even it could be coal, probably renewables in there too, obviously, like that is the play going forward. Hegseth just this week, I think, or last week was just, they had him out in White Sands in New Mexico testing laser weapons, directed energy weapons. I mean, that you need infinite energy for that. So where are we going to get it? It's like, that to me is the game. And that's the game for the next couple, decades really. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to be on tilt. So that's it.
Elon's been kind of talking about it too as of late. He did an interview. I don't know how long ago the interview was, but he was talking about how dollars might not exist, but we're going to be measuring things in terms of energy and watts. And he kind of mentioned Bitcoin in the same sentence. And, you know, if you're not really tuned into things like this, you might say, Jor, Brandon, idiots. But you just kind of got to watch not what's going on the TV, but kind of what's going on behind the scenes with a lot of this stuff. And there's just certain things that have been put in place. And really, I don't think people would say, well, the government's never going to do anything that's going to benefit the citizens. And, you know, I might agree with that too, but I don't think they have a choice at this point. I think that they're coming to the end of the road with this. And I think the 250 years, a very big milestone. That's when they really broke free from the British. And I just think it would be very poetic to kind of have something else that emerges here that's kind of energy backed, that breaks them free of that same system, that even though it's like not officially, they still have their hand in a lot of their pockets in the distribution of energy around the world. And I don't think the US likes that anymore. And I think that they're going to make some moves here. Whatever that looks like, I don't know. But I don't think they're just going to sit around and wait for everything to just collapse. I think that they're going to be a little bit more proactive with things and try to make this transition as pain-free as possible, even though I know that's not possible. But that's just kind of where I stand on. But we'll see.
There's a lot of talks. I think Peter Dunworth mentioned it on my podcast, which is the first time I heard it, and some other people kind of resonated with that he thinks that Trump has a lot of things lined up for Independence Day, the 4th of July, and that he also thinks that in that thing there will be a Bitcoin thing, because it will be important for the Bitcoiners and for the crypto investors also, like, because it's a big crowd for him to vote, a big voting block for him. And there's, I think, the midterms coming up in November. I'm not into American politics, just like the few things that I hear. And so like having some big announcements and being like more again giving to the people that vote for him, which means now also including the crypto and Bitcoin investors. I could imagine something's happening till like October-ish that we might have not expected, that is really positive for Bitcoin. But at the same time, I don't really care. Like it's like they might do something that is good for Bitcoin. They might do something that is bad for Bitcoin. But if you really know what Bitcoin is and you really care what Bitcoin is all about, you don't really care that much if the government likes it or not. I think that's the main point. So I don't know. It's always fun and entertaining to talk about the price, to talk about what governments are doing, what the adoption thing is doing. I like that stuff. It's entertaining for me. But if I'm putting my just Bitcoin extremist hat on, like, I don't care. It's just like why would I even consider those things? Like part of me is just like, let's just F off into some kind of Austrian lake, turn everything internet off, like just like not do my podcast anymore, don't do Twitter anymore, and just fishing all day long. Like I don't care. Like I eat my fish and like don't do anything else. That's kind of like, if I ever stop my podcast, you guys know what I'm doing. Probably like off the internet forever. That's kind of like my Bitcoin extremist hat. So, but it's fun to talk about. And there's also one more. I've prepared one topic for today. I want to get it out in the beginning. It's a fiat topic. I want to show you guys this. I have this weird conspiracy that 58K might be the Bitcoin bottom, because the meme guys are in for it. And I'll show you the Bitcoin price and why I came to that conclusion, because we always bounce off the 58K again. And it would be so hilarious for me personally if 58K would be the exact bottom of this bear market. I'll just show it for the people that might have not seen the Bitcoin price in recent weeks and months. But this is literally it. Today also we came down almost like 58.1. We came down here 58.3, 58.3, 58.9, And yeah, like since then we like basically gone here, we went 60. So I just wanted to get that conversation just out of the way, because I find it so fascinating that out of the bull cycle last time, after that we reached 100K, was the 58K gang meme. And now, like a year or 1.5 years later, 58K seems exactly the resistance, the support, like whatever the technical wizards are calling it. I have no clue about that world, but the 58K, like it goes down to 58K, it bounces back up, 50K, bounces back up. Exact disclaimer, I have no clue about that whole technical analysis world. I also don't care, but I care about memes. And I would absolutely love if the 58K would be exact bottom that is for that bear market. How are you guys thinking about that?
I think you're right. I think 58K gang, 58K gang is real. I think there's a reason that we visited that area so many times, and why we're revisiting it now is to I mean, it's all selling pressure that's brought us here, but there was been so much previous activity in this range, and that is historical evidence that is showing to be true, that there's buyers willing to step in around these prices, right? There's a reason why the price hasn't actually changed that much in the last little while. Like it's 60,000, 59,000. Like it's really not moving very much lately. And that's because of a highly liquid, lots of buyers and sellers in this price range. So it's really like, you can kind of think about it like a battlefield where you have 1,000 troops on your side, 1,000 troops on the other side, and they're both equally matched. And it's, you know, maybe whoever shoots first has one troop at the end, and then they go in that direction. So really, it's like, will the buyers run out first, or will the sellers run out first? If the buyers run out, then we go below that. And this is just an area where there's a lot of buyers willing to step in, right? Bitcoin is deeply discounted at this level. Doesn't mean it can't go lower, but it's deeply discounted, and it's obvious on all metrics. And really, the only reason not to buy Bitcoin at this point is that you believe there's something else of better value in this current environment. And there really isn't. There's the narratives that there are sort of weaning. Like, again, we've talked about it a bunch here, but like the IPO is not interesting anymore. I think 2 weeks ago I said I would be more willing to short SpaceX than to go long, and I think that was a good call at that exact moment. And you know, it's around where it IPO'd or whatever. And so like that sort of, you know, that sucked a lot of liquidity out, and now it's sort of just kind of dispersing back into whatever seems at good value. And Bitcoin is at incredibly good value right now. And then I think, I mean, this plays into some of the things you guys were talking about, sort of the more political stuff and Warsh and things. But it's like, the way I look at it is, the financial industry is not in our best interest. It's a battlefield as well. And the battlefield is an extractive war game that the financial industry is playing. And they want to extract as much value. Like, everybody that's in the financial industry wants to acquire wealth. That's their job. It's not to make you more wealthy. It's to make themselves more wealthy. And if it benefits you, and if the only way they can get more wealthy is by benefiting you, they'll do that. But it's ultimately to benefit themselves. So the way I look at it is, they basically they'll try to depress prices to be able to consolidate and centralize assets, and then they'll inflate those asset values. So where are we in that cycle is the question. And I think we are fairly close. I mean that's a question you guys could answer too, but I think that I wonder how much more accumulation of assets the financial industry wants to do right now before they begin to want the assets pushed up in value.
Yeah, because that's the thing with Bitcoin, is they can't just create more units of it or create more shares or whatever it is. It's a totally new thing here. And I think that I would, you know, it wouldn't be surprised me. I've kind of gone back and forth with this the last couple of weeks. I'm like, you know, I think this is probably the bottom, but I also think there's a chance that we do go lower in October. And when I think about it, kind of what we're talking about right now, and when I think into the future here, if I were to place my bet, I would say that, Robin, you're right. I would say that 58K is the low in fiat terms. We're still actually above in gold terms, which is what I think is a more accurate measurement, Bitcoin to gold versus Bitcoin to USD. We're actually still considerably up. I think 2 ounces up from the low in February, which suggests to me that it'd be different if we were going down in gold. Might feel a little bit differently right now. But I think that usually when everybody expects something to happen, we've seen this in Bitcoin before. Even in 2025, when everybody was expecting Bitcoin to rip upwards and like blow off top, it never happened. And I think that everybody and their dog are calling for this October bottom right now. But it seems like there's a lot of people who are willing to buy Bitcoin at 58K. And so to me, I just can't see us going much lower than this unless there's something crazy that happens with like the August soft fork that we can't really foresee right now. All other things being equal, I would say that 58K is probably going to be the low in fiat terms. I could be wrong. That's just, if I had a gun to my head, I had to bet on one thing, I'd say that that's probably pretty accurate. And we've heard Saylor, we've heard Besant, we've heard Trump, all kind of point towards something big happening in the summer, or July, I would say, is kind of the kickoff to summer. And to me, they're not going to be like pumped up to crash the markets. They're going to be pumped up to do the opposite of that. And I think with the midterms coming in 2028, they want the economic influences around the country to be favorable towards the administration that's in there right now. So if I were betting, obviously I could be wrong. I've been wrong before plenty of times, but I would say that we have a pretty good chance of 58K being the bottom, which again, I'm buying every day no matter what. So I would be happy either way, down or up. I'm just saying, kind of from my perspective here, what I've heard and what I expect to happen, I think that we might be at the bottom right now.
Yeah. And I think that, again, we're only 55% down right now in the bear market. So, I mean, this is a muted bear market right now. So to your guys' point, I mean, I could see it going down more. I think Midwest Picker said, flashed lower. Like, yeah, I could absolutely see that. And we saw it was at 16, 17 in 2022, and it, flashed down. Like it had a 15 handle, so it's a 5-10% drop. Like, you could definitely see stuff like that. And you guys just mentioned, strategy, what's going on there. Saylor has to sell some, and there's a reflexive loop the other direction. Like, again, we still have 10, 20, 30% baked in for a normal Bitcoin bear market of 70, 80%, yeah. So, I don't know. I wouldn't count anything. CMS said earlier, like, I bought it at 100,000. My wife, Bitcoin, it's a savings vehicle, right? It's like we said earlier, it's the hope trade, because you're fearful of your government. 100% they have to print into oblivion. And again, just looking at, like we said earlier, with Warsh and everything that's going on, I think it was 2020 where Powell held the rates the same. I'm trying to think of what it was at the end of during the election there. I can't remember what it was, but he like hiked into the election, type of thing, or whatever it was. But now, this is why Warsh is in there now. And he's got to kind of act like, oh yeah, well, the Trumps, they're not really controlling me, they kind of do the kayfabe, the get the wrestling WWF thing going there. And then he's only in there to be subordinated to the Treasury, basically, to Besant and Trump. And so which is the sovereignty of America. Obviously, the Federal Reserve, as Bitcoiners, we know that, again, it's a joke in general. There's, there's no reserves, and it's not, federal, but that's the appearance of it. And that's what it's supposed to be. And that's what they're doing. We go back to the 200 years ago to this Hamiltonian system of trying to get the energy back here and the power and the production and stuff like that. So I would be stunned if there's not some big moves here in the next few months, trying to, like Jor said, juice the markets for, like any president would do. This is not unique to Trump, but you're trying to juice the markets before the midterm, before an election year, whatever it is. So this is just normal behavior. And again, people are expecting the bottom into October, which again, I think one of you mentioned. But then would it surprise you for the opposite to happen? We're back at 120 by November. I mean, like that. So just like 58K, gang, like the opposite, it's always happening. So it's like, oh, we think there's going to be like this massive, huge rush a year ago, and it doesn't. It starts going the other direction. Now everything is going to bottom in October, November, and then it's going, so that to me is what's going to be really interesting to play out. And again, I've said this on many shows. You got to land the plane too. I mean, for all intents and purposes, what Warsh and Besant and Trump are doing, you still have to play the game. You can't just throw your sticks on the ice like we say in hockey. You flew the sortie. literally and figuratively, you're back to the aircraft carrier. You got to land on the carrier at night, hit one of the arresting wires, you got to land the plane somehow. And there's a lot of shit that can go wrong still, a lot of stuff, infinite things that can go wrong still. So not to say it's going to happen or not, but I think like the CMS's point, again, this is savings technology to protect yourself long-term from what is inevitable. And you got to know the timeline you're on in terms of societally, where am I on the timeline in the arc of history, and where am I? Then there's cycles in between there, right? These macro cycles, liquidity cycles, the political cycles. Where are we? Just at a debt cycle, and we've talked about this numerous times too, where what is it, 05, 06, 07, and we had $6-7 trillion in debt here in America. And then 10 years later, it was 17 to 20 trillion. Now we're at 40 trillion. 10 years after that, where are we going to be 10 years from now? We're going to be double. It's going to be 80 trillion. And the government already said by 2036, it's going to be 63 trillion. So we know for sure it's going to be at least probably 80, double from here, if not more. That's accounting for no black swans, et cetera. So again, we're at that hockey stick part of the curve, which the debt chart in America basically is like the price of Bitcoin in essence. You can kind of just like overlay it in a sense. And that's what's going to end up happening because, as Max Kaiser said for a long time, mathematically, Bitcoin is guaranteed to go up because it's perfectly finite. It's inverse of a 100% depreciating currency. And that's why people say that. And again, there's no top to Bitcoin because the bottom is zero and the inverse of that is infinity. And that's why Bitcoiners say these things. So just, hold tight. Don't get into a bunch of leverage right now and, doing a bunch of crazy stuff. Just, work more than you, or spend less than you can, spend less than you make, save in Bitcoin, and just touch some grass. It's beautiful. It's hotter than hell out in the Midwest right now. So, go enjoy the sun a little bit.
I think most people. I think most people that are not happy with the Bitcoin price are either very old or are very impatient because they have some borrow against your Bitcoin thing going on. They have some margin things going on, or they just connect their confidence with the Bitcoin price, which would be the worst of those three things actually, because you will be shaken out. So I've never seen someone that has no relationship to debt at the moment that has very strong confidence in Bitcoin that just like hopes for the Bitcoin price to be up. Because if you have time, and if you have one thing also very important from Brian, make more than you need, like spend less than you make. It's a very important thing for people to realize. So extremely important. Sorry, Forrest, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say the short-term Bitcoin price is noise, and it's very hard not to get caught in it. And it's noise for exactly what Brandon said, where you can look at the debt chart and Bitcoin's price will follow that. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to become dislocated at certain times based on other macro factors in the short term. And those dislocations of that, if that's ultimately the thesis that you believe will play out, and I do believe that will play out, that the world needs a neutral monetary network that has fair, equal rights for everybody, and therefore everybody has the incentive to adopt it, even if you control something that's alternative to it, you are forced to adopt it at a certain point because everybody you want to trade with has adopted it because it benefits them instead of you. So those dislocation points, which is basically what we've seen now with the price of Bitcoin, is an opportunity. And there's going to be dislocations to the top where some euphoric thing happens. Say July 4th, Trump comes out, says, yeah, we're buying 1 million Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's going to go through the roof if that happens. I don't think that's going to happen. But if that did happen, it would go absolutely insane and probably become dislocated to the upside, to the debt chart, right? The demise of the dollar isn't happening on July 4th, but Bitcoin's price would look like it would be at that moment. So Bitcoin isn't going to zero. Bitcoin isn't dying. It's dislocated to the downside if your long-term thesis is that everybody needs this and that there is no solution to the fiscal dominance problem, to the mass amounts of debt that gets created, the debt Ponzi scheme that we all are born into. There's no solution to that except for moving to a fair monetary network like Bitcoin. And ultimately, that's an incredibly long-term thesis. So if you are looking at the price now, if you are looking at when you bought it at 100K and wondering about the price now, that is all short-term thinking, and there can be times where that makes sense, where you were planning a retirement, you were planning a vacation, you were planning a purchase, and you were banking on Bitcoin doing a massive blow off top type bull market, and that didn't happen, and now we're in a bear market, right? So it's expectations. Investing and finance is all about managing expectations, and I think that we all can be responsible for it. We're all Bitcoin content creators. There's many out there that are much worse than we are, in my opinion, where people will be calling for million tomorrow, 100, whatever,
I'm guilty of that.
we all are, because we do believe that. But I think it's again, expectations, and people will latch onto one thing, and these get clicks, and they'll believe that, and they'll think that that's going to happen, and then they'll orientate their life in that direction. And I think that is largely a mistake. There's that saying where the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and that largely has to do with debt and leverage and position size and all of that. So stay solvent, short the dollar as much as you can by staying solvent still. I think that's just generally good advice. But don't go crazy out there. The most important thing with all of that is to stay solvent.
Yeah,
just a real quick, and I want to get back to having cash, because I think Joe and I had a talk, I think like 7 months ago, where we talked about emergency funds and having fiat cash laying around. But just real quick, our channel just hit a huge milestone, even though it's a small milestone, but for me, it's a huge milestone. For the first time ever, we made money. We just made $2. So I think it's a great hourly salary. That's amazing. So thank you so much, Robert, for hitting the ground running for us, and giving us each 30 cents after YouTube takes its cut and stuff like that.
And we got to pay Rajat, that sandbagger.
Oh man, what the hell? He's always too busy.
Sandbagging,
helping too many people.
No, appreciate it, Robert. The first $1.99 that came, I wasn't sure. I thought maybe that was on my channel, but yeah, I guess we must be monetized now officially on the mastermind. So that's awesome. And just quickly before we go any further here, I'm going to share this. Or Robin, maybe you want to share the main chat there in case everybody wants to get together and.
I'll share it and you can talk.
Fun. There you go.
Yep.
Someone
asked for a QR code too.
George, what's that?
Someone asked for a QR code too. So yeah, I know I was asking you about QR codes the other day. So
I actually created an account for us. I'll share that right away. I created a Coinos wallet for us. But anyways, a couple different things there. I don't, Forrest, you kind of mentioned that if Trump came out and said that they were going to buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin, what would happen? I really don't think that that's going to be. I don't think you agree with that either, but we've seen the US announce that before, that they're going to buy $1 million worth of Bitcoin. And to me, it's just number one, very unreasonable. And the last time they announced that, nobody even cared. So it's I don't know. I just think that if something were to happen, I think it's going to be more along the lines of we're going to back our currency with something. I think that would be the strongest signal that the US could send, is hey, we're going to back our currency with some sort of energy component, whether it is gold or silver, oil, maybe even a Bitcoin component. But I think that's probably what the four of us agree with right now, is something energy related is going to be what measures the world, whether that's in a week from now or in a decade from now. And I think the people who can comprehend that and understand that Bitcoin is energy. Bitcoin is basically units of energy, because you can't get Bitcoin without some form of energy contribution, whether that's your hash rate or whether that's your human labor. You cannot cheat. You cannot make or print units of Bitcoin. And so I think that that's really what's going to happen here. And again, I don't know if it's going to be an announcement, something that they do this week or this month, whatever it is, but that's the signal right now. That's the signal to me, is that we're moving to an energy-backed world. And I think the people who are here watching this today are aware of that. They know what's going on. Obviously, if you're watching this at the bottom of the last 6 months here, you're here for the right reasons, I would say. And I think that I think Forrest mentioned this as well, but like, it's interesting to me what happened last 2025, fall 2025. People were over leveraged. They thought that something was going to happen in Bitcoin, that the price was going to go to 150, 200, 275. There's a bunch of prolific Bitcoiners that were calling for like a 275 based on what they were seeing. And so people were taking out debt to buy Bitcoin, and it blew up in their face. And so what's the opposite of that right now? People are waiting with their cash on the sidelines because their favorite YouTuber is telling them that we're going to get to a bottom in October. Obviously, if they're waiting with cash and that day never comes, they're going to have much less Bitcoin than they would have if they would have been buying on the way down. And so I think that anybody at any time of the cycle, whenever you're taking fiat and buying Satoshis with that, you should plan to be there for at least 10 years. And then you're never going to be hurt or wiped out or liquidated or a forced seller. And we talked about the expectations here, managing your expectations. Get into Bitcoin with the idea that you're going to hold those sats for at least 10 years. And then it's going to go up, it's going to come down, but you don't care. You don't care because that's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is farmland. Farmers don't buy and sell their land based on cycles. They're accumulating. And I think that that's the mindset that should be taken going forward, and for a much better experience in Bitcoin going forward.
Quick little note there. I wanted to just really quick. Too many people are calling for an exact number at the bottom, and too many people have that mentality. A really simple solution of that, even if you believe that Bitcoin is going to go to a certain number, is to have an accelerated dollar cost average when you believe the price is near or at the bottom. Not to just wait, like, don't just create a limit buy at a specific price because it's not going to hit. You're going to miss out, and just dollar cost average into where you think the low is. So at least you have something, and then long term and all that stuff. Yeah.
I just wanted to say a real quick before Brandon goes, we have again a special guest today here. He was here last week, and it's not just the four of us; it's now the five of us again. How are you doing?
Back to back.
What is going on?
Look at this guy.
How you guys doing? How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Brandon? Good to see you. Man. Forrest, how you doing, sir?
Welcome, Jerry. I'm doing well.
I'm usually your sub sometimes, so I'm here off the bench with the starter right now. So
yeah, man, good to see you.
Forrest is your alpha.
yeah. I've subbed in for him on Maple Bitcoin as well.
So good.
But Brandon, you want to do this? Disrupt you.
Yeah, no. I think it's going to be humans building stuff. And we've talked about this before too, like Bukele. Look at Trump, look at Trump, Bukele. You have different variations of governments accepting Bitcoin or promoting Bitcoin, talking about Bitcoin, legal tender, et cetera, and that really doesn't persuade people. Like, that's not persuasive, even though people want leaders. Like, we can go back thousands of years and see people clamoring for leaders, right? The Bible's littered with stories of people wanting a leader, and just like God's like, hey, like, you could just follow the 10 commandments. Like, no, we want a leader. It's like, okay, like, all right. So like, it's weird because we're in this weird dichotomy where you have people want leaders, they want direction, people want to be led, but at the same time, even when the leaders do a lot of these things, they're not doing it, So like, it's this weird juxtaposition that we're in. So there's not really an answer to that necessarily, other than it's just building your own digital and physical citadels, which the boys have kind of just all mentioned to a degree, right? The privacy stack, the Fediments, the nodes, the local LLMs, large language models, all this stuff. This is all available now, and I think that we all get caught up in this. I'm no different. We all get caught up because we talk about this a lot. Sometimes you kind of feel like you are doing something, and we are obviously about talking things. And I know everyone in the chat here, they show up to the chat, they're talking to people clearly about stuff as well. So we're all doing a job, but are we doing everything we can? Because the building, coming back full circle to what we talked about at the beginning, the building, the energy, the vibes, like, that's what's going to persuade people. Because like, we all know people who just like talk, the family member, whoever, who's like just talking, spewing hot air all the time, and there's nothing backing it, all hat, no cattle, right? That doesn't rule the day. I mean, that's Keynesian bullshit. That's this academic credentialist stuff that worked for, 50, 60, 75 years, but it doesn't work anymore. And that's where the people see, and this is why we talked about prices last week, like Forrest mentioned. We talked about prices last week because you know what? The memes cut both ways. Like we as Bitcoiners, we use these memes to get people in the door. But then once you get in the door, you kind of, you got to be careful, right? Because never selling, like you never sell your Bitcoin. Well, when you're living on Bitcoin, you kind of have to sell your Bitcoin, you know? So like there's these things, once you cross this threshold of understanding, well, these memes, you kind of have to turn around and use the memes against themselves sometimes, but they're great for people, you know, getting people in the door. And so that's where like this energy building and doing this, building the privacy stack and doing those things we can do, the contrast, because like the Lambos meme, right? The crypto crowd, the moonshot boys are generally the crypto crowd, right? Like we get thrown into that, Bitcoiners do. But at the same time, like what do people want though? They want Lambos, you know, like they want that stuff. And that's where like you got to be careful. Like if a few Bitcoiners have a Lambo or they buy the New York Yankees, guess what? That's not a bad thing. Like people, they need to see that stuff because humans want that. They want to be led. They want the lures of wealth. That's why you have DraftKings and Polymarket. I mean, I was watching the World Cup the other day, like the highlights. It got effing Polymarket Kalshi ads everywhere now. It's like, my goodness, you're on like Coinbase flashbacks from like 5 years ago. And so people want the lottery ticket. We're at, again, talking about where we're at in the timeline of life. We're at that timeline where most of society is so bent over the barrel, they can't afford even stacking and DCAing, unfortunately. I mean, as sad as that is, and so they need the lottery ticket. And so all this being said, it's incumbent on all of us Bitcoiners to lead a certain way and be certain people, be the example and say, hey, this is what we're doing in all these different ways. If you're a Lambo guy, go get a Lambo. If you're run a node, build your privacy stack and do all these things and be that, because there's going to be people who look at you and say, oh shit, like that's amazing. That's really cool what you're doing. Like I want to check that out. I want to do that. And that's because it's not going to be some guy on high, a Donald Trump or the Bukele saying, hey, you guys got to use your, you know, Squid Wall or whatever the hell, you know, what was the Quavo? What was the wallet in El Salvador?
Chivo,
My goodness.
Chivo, I think it
was. You got to, I feel like my father right now. Just like, I got the letters correct. And I'm just like spitting out names, you know? So this is to me, like, it's just, that's the power, the vibes, the energy that we need again. And we'll get there because perception, money is psychological. And we don't have the narrative right now. We don't have this it's all other places right now. We'll get it back, but it's just, it's staying grounded, building, being the doers, setting the example, setting the tone, and really leading by example going forward.
Fucking awesome. Really cool. I just learned that Jerry is also Geraldo. I don't know if that's true. But what do you guys, what do you think, Geraldo?
I think it's pronounced Geraldo. Well, first of all, I want to say
Geraldo.
thanks, Robin, for the invite. Jor, what's up? Didn't say hi to you.
Jerry.
I'm loving this, man. You know, I buy quite often. Like I said before, I buy every hour on the hour. And
Early and
when
often.
I wake,
Early
yes,
and often. There you go.
Yes. I buy 24/7, 365. And so my favorite part of the day is the morning when I get up and I look at two things. I look at my hourlies, what I bought while I slept, and then I look at to see how my balance changed, and also to see how many sats I'm getting per hour. And I don't even look at the price anymore. I'm so tuned in to how many sats I'm getting per dollar, if you will, that when I see the sats, I'm just like, wow, I got a raise last night, or I lost money last night, or whatever. And to be back in the gang, in one of my favorite gangs, the 58K gang, I feel good. I'm with this gang. I'm with the 58K gang. And I just look at this thing like I see some people doing some morning shows and stuff like that. And like, oh man, we started in the red and blah, blah. I'm just like, what? Because some people, it's all relative. It's all where you're coming from, what your perspective is. And my personal perspective is I'm the new guy in Bitcoin. You guys have been in Bitcoin longer than me. I started buying in February 2021. So for me, I'm like a baby in this, and I'm just trying to accumulate. I'm trying to listen to, I guess, Michael Saylor 1.0 when he said the digital gold rush, if you will. Yeah, we got to separate it now.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, and he said it's a, because I was in the gold and silver heavy, and the thing that he said that just clicked to me, and I can't turn it off in my head, is the gold rush, because I'm very familiar with the real gold rush of, you know, back in the 1800s. And when I thought about it like that, I'm like, wow, 2035, we're going to be down to the last 1% of the entire supply. And I'm just like, I have to get as many as I can until that day. And I'm always looking at it on Clark Moody dashboard, to see what the date is, because the blocks change and stuff like that. And I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to get my percentage of the network. Again, it's all about what percentage of the money supply you have. And I always talk about that. I did a video on Satoshi Saturday telling people, and I had to really look this up, on the difference between 1 million sats and $1 million, and why 1 million sats, not today, but in the future, and I don't know when, will be more rare and more powerful than $1 million, because they're both going the opposite directions. A Satoshi millionaire, someone that has 1 million sats, it's easy, quote unquote, to get today. It's only cost you $585 or whatever it is right now. But in the future, it's going to be much, much harder. The opposite way with fiat currency, as you can see, we're getting more and more, quote unquote, millionaires every single year, because, it's obviously the internet and it's easier to make money, but also they're making more money. So it's not only easier to make money to get, but it's easier to make. But when you look at Satoshis and the not the limited supply, but the absolute scarcity of that 2.1 quadrillion, and every hour I'm getting more, I love it, because I get a raise when the price goes down. So I'm feeling really, really good. I hope we stay as low as we can, and I'm just going to keep buying and getting my shovel and keep digging for this digital gold rush.
We got to stake our claim, right? That's where that saying comes from, is from the gold rush. And that's what we're doing here. This is the digital gold rush. You have to stake your claim. You can have a piece of the finite pie of all the Satoshis out there, and you won't be diluted, and that they're only going to become more and more scarce, right? We still have issuance of Bitcoin, 3.125 every block, but people lose Bitcoin. That issuance gets cut in half every 4 years, and ultimately there's only 21 million Bitcoin. And the question is how much are you going to own? How much are you going to own when it really matters? And I think a lot of people are just waiting. I have a friend who I talked to yesterday. He's a big trader, and he says, well, I trade between value investment, dividend stock, and treasury bonds, and then I move over to high risk on trades like NASDAQ, Bitcoin, and silver. And I'm like, oh, what do you mean high risk? Like, Bitcoin's the safest thing you could own. But he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin. He sees it as a NASDAQ beta play, and that's old guard thinking. This is a paradigm shift in finance. This is a revolutionary financial product, Bitcoin, and people are missing out on how monumental Bitcoin really is.
I think the thing that's tough too is, and this is very hard. This is why you have to experience it. This is why we're going to talk a lot about persuasion going forward, I think, and just energy and contrast and what really persuades people, because it's hard to, give your lived experience to someone else, right? Like, they have to touch the stove. They have to do these things. And you just mentioned this guy, and it's like, that's the fiat system. You have to be the hedge fund manager on the side of your job, working 2 jobs, working overtime. You get divorced from your spouse because you never see them. You don't know your kids. Like, that's the fiat system. You want that? All right, keep living in the US dollar. Wonderful. I lived that in real estate, doing the things I was doing. I was spending $5,000 to $1,000 a month just to get a property or 2 every month, paying people, and you're looking around, and you thought after like 5-10 years, people would be behind you almost, like, 'cause I would do a lot of social media. I would be doing a lot, like telling people, hey, like, this is how you do it. And no one's doing that. And then you kind of realize, like, oh yeah, this is kind of like hard, and it takes a lot of capital, a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of people. And you realize, dude, this is the best that the fiat system has to offer, which real estate's amazing. Like, I love real estate. It's the best thing on the Titanic, but it's still going to be 12,000 feet under in 4 hours. Like, it's still going to be 12,000, and you can arbitrage it. Like, I'm surprised. And we talked about before that there aren't more real estate people using really the sailor strategy, the burr strategy, and then saving in Bitcoin, their cash flows and stuff like that. So kind of a side talk for a different day. Mind blowing to me that that's not done more. But we have this system where I think eventually, and this is where I've been talking a lot about the timeline you're on in society. When you see student loans, like I argued with people like 10, 12 years ago about paying off student loans. And I was like, why would you pay off your student loans? Like, just pay the minimum and invest. And they was like mind blown. Like, so many people have fought with them, like just having like real fights with people, like emotional, like whatever, like Dave Ramsey style fights. And then I told people, I was like, don't you see what's coming? Obama was at the time in office, was like, they're going to cancel the debts. Like, do you not see where the puck is going? And sure as hell, when Biden's in office, we're canceling debts. And they talked about it. And I had predicted it as well, as school will become free. And Obama, before he left office, started talking about 2-year programs being free and stuff like that. And it was like, if you can't see where the puck is headed, you can't see that we're in a debt-based system, and the fever pitch in society is only going to grow. I mean, you only have to go around to a city right now and go look, the homeless, the protests in the streets, the riots, and how they can just also inject that anger into people's veins immediately. That is only going to compound more over time as the debt grows, the wealth gap grows. And that to me was the biggest thing. When you look at the wealth gap and you say, there's no way to rectify this. So people they'll try all these things first, these little things, these little measures. We're going to cancel student loans. We're going to come in and pay for your house if you use this CBDC. It's only worth 250 grand, but we'll pay you 350. The extra 100 grand will be on your CBDC app. We'll get you to use, stuff like that. They're going to incentivize you in a million ways. And only eventually, until the government has exhausted all these resources and people are literally at each other's throats, will then people be on their hands and knees begging for actual sound money. To me, that's the only way this really plays out. I hate to say it, but you look through history, and there's no way for me to give all my experience of time, study, effort, business building, investing, and say, hey, here it is. Now you can't. And one of my favorite guys ever, and we've talked about him here before, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, some of these guys, like, I can't give you what I have because you have too much of what you have. Period. End of story. You have too much in your head. It's just so much that isn't so. As Ronald Reagan also once famously quipped as well. It's not that people are stupid. He said it about the Democrats at the time, but it's still a great quote nonetheless. So not depending on what aisle you're on, but it's not the Democrats are stupid. It's just they know so much isn't so. And that's kind of the story of life. Scott Adams always talked about this too, where people all think they're right. It's not like good versus evil. It's good versus good. Everyone thinks they're on the good side. And that's this contrast we're about to unearth. And we're going through auditing things and reliving history and re-auditing. What happened to JFK? What happened to 9/11? What happened with all these things? And on and on and on. What happened to the Federal Reserve, the Titanic? What happened to all these things? Well, buckle up. The coming years are going to be very interesting and very enlightening.
I think so too.
Shout out Bobby P.
I know, good old Bob. Rest in peace, man.
Bob Proctor. I think you mentioned Jim Rome. A couple other guys. Jim Rohn, I should say, not Rome. But yeah, I mean, that's we talk about the price, the freedom aspect, but just like the overall, I think, life upgrade you get from being in Bitcoin. And I think for me, anyways, I really discovered what it meant to add value to somebody. And if you're paying attention to guys like Bob Proctor, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, these aren't really things that we were taught as kids in school. We were just basically trained to be on the factory line, trained to be a good employee, trained to show up when school starts and ask permission to go to the bathroom. That's really what the focus was on for the first 15 to 16 years of our life, I'd say. And it's sad because nobody understands that. And I feel like I shouldn't say nobody, but Bitcoiners are closest to the fire in that sense of like understanding what energy is, what value is, how it's created, the difference between, an asset that can be printed and an asset that actually requires physical energy, hard money versus, infinite money. These are things that you learn as a Bitcoiner, and then it applies to almost every aspect of your life. So I think there's the price, the freedom, the sovereignty, but also just like upgrading your life, I think is something that isn't as talked about in Bitcoin. And then, when you have that as your foundation, then weeks and months like this, they're not too bad because as the chat's talking about here, we're getting paid more. If you're allocating some of your salary or your paychecks or your profits into Bitcoin right now, the units that you want to accumulate, you're getting more of for the exact same amount of energy. So it's like, it's difficult concept to understand, but I know for a fact that without having the understanding of energy and Austrian economics and these other things, I wouldn't really get that either. So it's not really surprising to me that people hear that and see that, but they're still like, well, what the hell does that mean? I'm half as rich as I was 6 months ago, and that's all I can really see. But you get paid, you put that into Bitcoin, you get more of what you want. So it's an interesting way, a lens to look at the world through. And I think that, having that has really benefited me personally.
I want to come back to, I think we teased it before. I think, Joe, we talked about it on my podcast, like, I don't know, half a year or 7 months or something like that ago, of like the value of having cash sitting around, emergency buffer, like I don't know how we call it, but just like having some kind of like cash. in terms of like weathering the storm when it comes to Bitcoin, which was an amazing time to do that, because if you listen to that, you probably are doing now a lot better than you, if you would have just not done that. How do you look at that now, like having some kind of emergency funds, having not even an emergency fund, just having operating cash that gets you maybe through like 2-3 bad months?
Well, I think that kind of, I don't know. First of all, I got to give a shout out to Rajat, because he was the OG of the Bitcoin and cash strategy. Michael Saylor even copied him after that. But I was just kind of parroting and echoing what Rajat had said. But yeah, I mean, it's you kind of, we just talked about the guys like Bob Proctor and Jim Rohn. And I think another book that I've been really dialed into as of late is this book called Happy Pocket Full of Money. And basically, he just makes a point of like, you should just save 10% of your salary. That's it, like a hard 10%. And I think that if you can over leverage, you can get cute with it. But if you just keep it simple and you take that 10% of your salary and you kind of look at the price of Bitcoin for either the 200-day, the fear greed index, or whatever metric you want to use. And when the price of Bitcoin is higher, maybe you allocate more towards your cash reserve. When the price of Bitcoin is down, or the moving average is down, or the fear greed is very fearful, maybe that's when you allocate more and take a little less cash. But I think if you did have a cash reserve right now, you would be happier than a pig in shit, because you have cash to buy the 58K price that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And my strategy before kind of adopting that was basically every time I get paid, every dollar is going to Bitcoin. And it's a good thing. I've never regretted buying Satoshis, but like, you can definitely do it more intelligently if you have both a Bitcoin and a cash balance. And this is just for Bitcoin. I mean, the other part too is like, if you had all Bitcoin and an expense came up, or a big, emergency came up, you'd be a forced seller. Whereas if you have a cash reserve there, you don't have to sell your Bitcoin. So I think that whether you're waiting for the low in Bitcoin, or you're just kind of anticipating life's curveballs that it throws at you, it's always nice to have some cash. And I think the cash is different than even STRC, because you want to be very liquid with it. And we've even seen STRC be a little bit more volatile than I think people expected as of late. So it's like, you want something, what do we call it, Forrest? The half of the barbell was very short-term focused.
Yeah.
Low vol. And then the other side of the barbell strategy was much longer term, but the very high upside. And I think if you can find that balance, the Bitcoin barbell strategy, we've done a couple videos on it. Robin and I talked about it. There's a couple on our Maple Bitcoin channel, but I haven't seen or heard of anything that's better than that and would have done better over this last 6 months than that sort of a strategy.
Yeah, it's like, I think also very important this thing, because people just used Stretch or like something like that as cash, and it's not.
Right.
And I think that we have to make this very clear, because people might think that way, just because of like, oh yeah, like it's supposedly just around $100. But first of all, strategy doesn't guarantee you that, obviously, because they can't, and neither you should expect it. And especially if you have Stretch, something that is more likely to be correlated to Bitcoin than other things. We've seen it that it goes down. Now it can still be a good strategy, like income thing or like something like that. If you have some like personal things, I don't use it. But the cash we're talking about is like literally cash that is not correlated to Bitcoin whatsoever. Now there's James Check approach of like holding it in gold. I think that's an interesting approach, because gold is not as correlated to Bitcoin as Stretch, but I would still say like use cash, like use cold hard cash, use the fiat local currency that you use to pay things, because that's the easiest way. There's no fees with selling it. Like if you have even Stretch or like gold, it's like there's usually a fee associated with buying and selling, so you don't want to sell it. There might be some like things you have to do in your jurisdiction with taxes, depending on where you live and depending on how it looks. With fiat local currencies, there's none of that, hopefully, for you. And so it's weird, because before we were called the Bitcoin extremist, and now we're saying have some fiat cash laying around. So I get that difference there. But I think, as Brandon also said, like two things can be true at once.
I just want to jump in here because there's a comment there from an Austrian economic that says, an Austrian economist said, Jor, you were saying to buy Bitcoin even at 100K. Absolutely was. I was buying all the way up to 125K. But it says now that it's below 60, you're talking about adding to cash balance to try and sound smart. That's not what I said at all. Actually, I said when the price of Bitcoin is down, you should be allocating more. If you were doing a Bitcoin cash strategy, when the price of Bitcoin is lower, that's when you should be buying. I'm not saying add cash balance, but also I'm saying like I've done a lot of things wrong. And this is something I just adopted since we chatted, Robin, since Rajat explained the benefits of doing that. So, I mean, I've been buying every day for the last couple of years. So I bought it and beyond that even, but I bought up at 125 and I bought all the way down. I'm just saying like when the Bitcoin price is lower than say the 200-day moving average, that's when you want to be buying more Bitcoin than adding to your cash reserve. When the price of Bitcoin is up at 100 or 120 or 150, that's when you should maybe allocate more towards your cash reserve than buying Bitcoin. That's a more intelligent way to do it. So maybe I just messed up when I said it earlier, but or they misunderstood me. But I'm not just trying to sound smart here. I think that's the strategy.
The cash buffer is about flexibility because it's highly liquid. And so like the James Check strategy of having gold, at most I'd be like a mid-duration asset because it's highly illiquid, massive fees and spreads if it was actually real gold. And then if it was sort of real gold, it's fulfilling sort of the sovereign idea of what Bitcoin is. I don't really see the point of that, but maybe I'd have to think deeper about that or listen to what his actual thesis is on that. But the idea to have a cash balance as part of your portfolio, if you have only cash and Bitcoin, it's highly flexible. And if Bitcoin draws down, you can reduce the cash stack that you have if possible, right? You go from 6-month emergency fund to 3, you stretch yourself out a little bit, and you are able to use that flexible liquid cash to increase the other side of the barbell because you have it. Yeah. So it's about flexibility, and it's the compensation for the high vol. I can't go all in on Bitcoin because it's too volatile. Well, you have something that's the exact opposite. You have something with no volatility that you do not want to hold for longer than a couple of years at most, because you know every year it's going to go down by 7%. So it's a short-term, low volatility, and those two things balance each other out to lower your overall volatility of your portfolio and to allow flexibility in times where assets are extremely cheap. That's the reason for that.
And one additional thing, I just looked it up. We released the podcast with Jor in January, and the Bitcoin price was almost 100K. It was like 96 or something like that. So you actually said it when it was 100K. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but just the receipts are looking good for Jor.
Someone else had a good one. Well, Buck52,000 said bullets can also be used in currency. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. So if you can do it, do it. And if you know, you know. And then someone else also said, shouldn't we be pricing things in focusing in on Bitcoin? And why are we talking about the USD price? I think we talked about this last week and how important the USD price is and just the emotional grip that it has on society, right? And that's the world we live in currently. I mean, 99.9% of people live in that world. So you have to talk about that world. Otherwise, everyone tunes us out. And so it's using USD price and talking USD price is basically a Bitcoiner's way of relating to the pre-coiner, relating to a normie, relating to the average person, and extending a bridge and saying, hey, here it is. And you could denominate your entire life. You could find all the houses in the world, the products and services, everything. You could price everything in Bitcoin right now. I mean, like I've kind of done it before. Like a loaf of bread would be like 4 sats, stuff like that. Like you can do it. But the problem is, again, it goes back to the 99.9% of people don't believe that. Money is psychological at the end of the day. Money is a narrative. The dollar itself is just confidence. It's if 1-2% of people woke up tomorrow and said, oh, it's not worth anything, guess what? It's going to zero. It's hyperinflating, gone. And so you're going to see how real quick, 13 aircraft, 12 aircraft carriers won't matter. But when a couple % of people wake up and believe it's worth nothing, and this is where the timeline thing was back into as well, when the wealth gap, when nothing's satiating the masses, and there's no amount of student loan debt that can be paid off, et cetera, et cetera. And they realize, oh my gosh, where is this scam now? Finally, Elon Musk was right. You know, all these people, these Bitcoiners, these extremists, they were right. Oh my gosh. That comes at some point someday. I don't know if that's coming very soon, but that's coming eventually. And so that to me is, again, we use the USD price just so we can bridge that gap. Because yeah, I mean, we wouldn't. I can't stand using USD price. I really can't stand it. However, you have to relate to the average person, and that's what we're trying to do here at the end of the day.
Yeah, and also it's all our frame of reference. It's we can be, so like, I'm a big fan of Jeff Booth, and I think he puts it so nicely of, you cannot improve a system within the system, you have to switch to a new system, and Bitcoin is a new system, fiat is the old system. But it's not a thing where we can just switch off automatically, like super fast. I don't want to bring up another car example, but I'm just obsessed with that these days. We still measure the power of a car in horsepowers.
Yeah.
And so, like, still to this day, it does not make sense at all that we do that. It has no, like there's no reason we really do that, except of previously used the horse like 140 years ago for transportation and not the car. And so even if you say, okay, there's a new system, there's a better system, and it's a whole different thing than the previous system, in the period where we switch towards it, it does make sense to actually measure it in it and like use it as a frame of reference. Because if, for example, someone comes up to me like, oh, like, what do you think about Bitcoin? And like, what's the price of it? And I says like, oh, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. You have to, you have to get the people where they are, and you tell them, oh, like, it doesn't matter when you buy Bitcoin. It takes a very long time till you get to this point. Most people are like, oh, of course, like, if you buy it at 60K, you get twice as many Bitcoin as 120K. And this is real. Like, actually, I think it's true. So it does matter to a certain extent, but more Bitcoin is more Bitcoin. And so like, then it's like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And if you think back to like 2012, if you bought Bitcoin at like $1 or like 50 cents, does it really matter? Like, let's say you put in $1,000 at like 50 cents, or you put in $1,000 at $1. You have a lot of Bitcoin now. It doesn't matter if it's like 50 cents or like $1. Like, it just doesn't. But of course, you have twice as much Bitcoin then. So that's just my two cents.
I was just going to say, Robin, I think, I like the horsepower analogy there, but if you think about what horsepower measures, it measures energy. Like, it measures physics. That's why we're still using it. I mean, it still has like that horsepower before the vehicle, like the tie to it. But like, that's what makes sense, because you align things with nature and to physics and to these laws, which horsepower you can measure. It's not something that you can just make up or cheat. It's actual physics. And so I think that to me is why it makes so much sense that we will eventually move to measuring things in Satoshis, because it's the same thing. It measures energy. It measures power, and it's in line with nature and the laws of thermodynamics. So I think that, fiat, that's why it's so hard to compare to. But yeah, I mean, like you guys mentioned, it's still the world reserve currency, even though we don't think that it is, even though we don't value it. The reality is that most people still see the US dollar, and I would agree with this, as the world reserve currency today. That doesn't mean it's going to be in 5 or 10 years from now, or we need to measure our lives in that currency. But for the most part, that's where people are right now. So yeah.
Yeah. Jerry, what do you think?
As far as the cash question?
Yeah, just all of it. I mean, just thoughts from all of us, bloviating over here.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, so I'm obsessed with, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. I'm obsessed with having the biggest gap I can between my expenses and my income. And I'm constantly like, a lot of times during the day, trying to widen that gap, trying to make more and spend less constantly. I mean, constantly.
Love that.
And I come from a I used to be in the military. I came from a finance background. And I'm embarrassed to say I'm 51 now, and I didn't find out that the money was broke until I was 45 years old. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I did all the stuff. I was doing everything. I was doing the real estate thing like you, Brandon,
Yep.
doing different investments and all that other stuff. So when I found gold and did what I had to do, I said, wow, the money's broken. I watched the what's my boy's name? Mike Maloney
Mhm.
series. That's what got me going.
So good. Yep.
Yes. So, and it's still good today. It's still
good.
It's,
Yep.
it's like a
Timeless.
like yeah,
Yeah.
it's like going to elementary school and
Yep.
middle
Yep.
school, and Bitcoin is like freaking
Yep.
6-year, 8-year degree. And so my thing was in the fiat world was trying to constantly because I used to have clients I used to sit down with and show them how to make more, spend less, invest the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's make more, spend less, put the rest in sats. But for me, cash, I don't keep a lot of cash. So what I do is, because I was in the military, I get most of my money on the first of the month. And then what I do is I allocate it. So I have a fold card. The bills that I can pay online with my fold card, I put the money in my fold card to get sats back. Then I take the money and fill up my entire Bitcoin exchange with my hourly buys. And I, whatever that day, let's say it's 10 cents an hour. And that's what? $2.40 a day times 30. I put that in the thing, and then maybe put a little bit more just in case there's a dip. Right now, as far as having physical cash or cash in the bank, I don't keep a lot because I have several different credit cards that I can use to bridge if there's an expense I had to do, because all my expenses I pay, pay the rent, mortgage, whatever, pay that, all that stuff is paid. And then I have a little bit of cash extra for emergencies, right? Just like an emergency means for me, it's it's not a tire bursting or something like that. I could do all that with my credit card. Emergency now to me is if the price dips. That's an emergency for me right now, to be honest with you. So I keep that in my bank account. I don't keep it in my Bitcoin exchange, because if I do, I tend to buy a dip that I think is a dip, and it's not really a dip. I'm talking about a real dip to make me physically say, okay, I got to transfer this money over from my bank to my exchange. And it's just that one extra little layer for me. So for some reason, for some people, I tell people this all the time, personal finance is personal. You have to figure out which works best for you and sit down. If you can have credit cards, do that. If you can get your points, get a fold card, what's the other one in Canada, Jor? Shake Pay, stuff like that. Get some sats back. Me personally, again, I don't keep a lot of cash. I keep it as an emergency to buy more Bitcoin, and cash in my Bitcoin exchange to buy more Bitcoin. I do not currently live on a Bitcoin standard right now, but I put all my savings into Bitcoin. I use my Lightning every single day. I send out Bitcoin to people. I receive Bitcoin every single day. And there's certain things that I buy with my Satoshis. Like on the 21st of every month, I go to Steak and Shake and buy a burger and fries just on the 21st, right? So I try to keep the economy going. And the reason why I'm not fully yet on a Bitcoin standard, because of days like this, to be completely honest with you. But I put all my savings into Bitcoin. I'm not saying I'm against having cash, whatever works for you, obviously. But I know that when you talk about the CPI, or I call the CPI numbers, they're all personal, right? So when you say my basket of goods are this and his basket of goods are that, it's all different. So you have to look at what's going on in the world and say, okay, because they tend to replace certain things with, if you like to buy steak, they say, oh, well, we'll just replace it with chicken or whatever. And they'll do that. But you got to just really sit down and go, all right, I know what my CPI numbers really are, because it's right there. I can see what I bought in March versus March 2025 versus March 2026. So just keep track of that stuff. If you're getting a raise, meaning your goods or services or whatever are less or more, act accordingly, adjust accordingly, and always just constantly be thinking about how you can raise your income by creating more value, because there's ways to make money either online or whatever. You can make money selling goods, service, or info, right? But then also you have to separate, when your expenses are concerned, you have to separate your needs versus wants. You know, do I need this HBO subscription? Do I need this? Do I need that? And certain things, you're like, wow, I can buy more sats with that. If I got this, you know, there's certain things that like every Tuesday or Wednesday, it depends. I like to go to a movie. I like to go see a movie. So I use my fold card. I go do that. I don't buy a bunch of popcorn, a bunch of BS. Let's just say I have a bag in my on my possession, and I, you know, have a couple things in there. And I go to the movie. I sit down, and it's that certain day. It's like $3 or $4 to go or whatever, and I enjoy it. Even if, again, a lot of them are woke, but you got to go to the movies and do your thing and be normal, live a normal life. And just cash is good if it's good for you. Again, just a plan accordingly. But the main thing, try to get as many Satoshis as you can and measure your net worth in Satoshis. That's the most important part, in my personal opinion.
I love that.
Oh, good.
That's really cool. Like, it's so important to like have that view of like, how do I get more Bitcoin? Because even if the cash thing, the whole point of getting more Bitcoin, there's I had I think Stefan Pernaud on my podcast. He does all that math things, like 80% of that I have no clue about, and he makes that point of having some cash laying around and having that like balance always. It actually makes sense because in the dips you like buy more, and then you can like get like this boost to DC. I think like, who was it? Was it Forrest or Chor that talked about like having a heavier DCA running when the price is lower, which I kind of like it, of like having a DCA going all the time. And when it's like very oversold, when it's like very juicy prices, you get just like way more in the DCA than you usually have. So you have you can kind of manage through that, because obviously you get twice as many freedom tokens if the price is at 58K and not at 116K would be the double of that, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, I was looking back at one of my videos. I do a series called Satoshi Saturday, and I've been doing it for over 2 years now. I'm up to episode 124 or something like that. And I like to go back, and in the beginning, I have this little I have my little opening or whatever, and I always tell people what block we're at, what the price is, and most importantly, how many sats you can get for $1. And I look back yesterday at my episode number 86, and I looked at
Moscow time.
Yeah,
there you go.
And I said the block height and everything, and the price on October 4th, 2024 was 122,000. And for $1, you can get yourself 817 cents at that time. And I was happy about that. I was like, wow, because at the time, and I said in the video, we're in October. Remember October? It didn't happen. But I was like, wow, man, 817, this is still great. And we're only 122. We could get more. And again, when you're looking at the price and how many sats you can get per dollar, it's all relative. And now we're getting more than double that, right? So it's like, again, am I stacking hard enough? Am I going hard enough? And you're going to remember these days, man. Like, I'm telling you, when you go back to 2022, I remember when I first got into Bitcoin in 2021, I was new and stuff like that. And I still was stacking gold or whatever. And I know I didn't fully understand Bitcoin because I still was buying gold and silver. And I remember this so vividly. I was delivering pizzas and I was driving 7 days a week. I was working 10 to 14 hour days every day because I wanted more gold and silver. And I live in Nevada, so I live in the silver state. Long story short, every single day I'd come home. Let's say I had like $350. I go, all right, I'm going to get this many ounces, that many ounces. But then I'm like, all right, well, I got to buy my Bitcoin today. Okay. So I'd roll over and I'd buy 100,000 sats for $18, $19. And then I'd go and try to haggle with the gold and silver guy and haggling and all this other stuff. And I really thought about it once I got into more and more Bitcoin. When I hear people talking about gold can be found in asteroids and in caverns and under the sea and all this stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? Gold is the greatest and blah, blah, blah. But then I thought about the ease of entry of Bitcoin versus what I had to do. I had to physically get up, get in my car, drive down the street, get out of my car, go and haggle with the person, even though they always give me good deals because I was I was making videos, giving them promo and stuff. But at the end of the day, I had to get up and physically go. Meanwhile, 20 minutes ago, it took me 30 seconds to buy 100,000 Satoshis for $18, $19. If I would have known what I know now, And if I was making 200, 300, I could have been buying more than 1 million Satoshis a day back then. Now, that's relative. Right now, today, you can get yourself a lot of Satoshis for a low price in comparison to what it's going to be in the future. Okay. Because again, that was just a few years ago. Can you imagine what it's going to be in 2028 and 2032? Again, how much work will it take you to buy 100,000 Satoshis in a few years? Now, today it's still, I'm not saying it's not easy. It's not hard. It's, what is it? 58, it'd be 500. What is it? 558 bucks right now? No, 580 for $1 million. So yeah, $58 or something like that, or whatever it is. That's still not easy, but I was buying it for 18, 19 bucks back then. So when the price is going up, it's just much, much harder. And again, if you're measuring your wealth in Satoshis and you're trying to get as many as you can, you won't worry about anything else. And just remember, don't compare yourself to the American hodls and stuff back in the days when they were buying, Bitcoin at $200 and all this other. I seen him saying that one day. He thought he was late because we all think we paid too much. Again, think about the future and think about the 99.5% of the planet that you are way ahead. I was telling somebody yesterday, there's one day that all these sats that we're buying every single day, it's going to be so in demand because the demand is low right now. The supply is high compared to the demand, but there's going to be one day that the supply is going to keep going up. I mean, the supply is going to keep going down every 4 years. Then demand is going to go up, and they're going to have to move the decimal point back one. They have to because it's not going to be enough. It's going to be too expensive. And when that day happens, those Satoshis you have in cold storage, let's just say they're going to be very, very valuable in the future.
What an amazing point. I think we're getting to like our usual 1.5 hour spot. I think I don't really want to add too much to what Jerry just said. It's an amazing ending point. Brandon, Joe, you have anything to add for today?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say, Jerry made amazing points. I love that perspective, and I love how you're thinking about stuff, Jerry. It's just always fun to see how different people attack. I just love that. And and just a reminder too, to kind of just piggybacking off what Jerry said, we're 4x. And again, whether this is the bottom or now, we'll just call it the bottom for now. We're 4x from what the bottom was 4 years ago. 4x, it's like, that's wild. This was the high. It was like some crypto account like a couple months ago was like showing it as a flex, like, haha, look at Bitcoin. It's like, dude, it was like a 2021 high and it was measuring to this low. It's like, look, in 5 years, it's just gone sideways. It's like, dude, number one, if you're DCAing, right, you're up 30 or 40%. We've talked about the numbers here. You guys have explained it. Jerry just kind of explained it, what he's been doing. Joe talks about it. And you're comparing apples and oranges. It's like, it's a high that we could not break through for more like a day to a literal floor, which we've just been, riding along. So it's just, you got to zoom out, like the boys just said, you got to put things into perspective. It's a long-term game. I think about the floor we've set, and we've had a war going on. The last 4 years, we haven't had much liquidity spraying out into the ether. I mean, it's been a lot of, tightening, bitching and moaning at Powell, Trump's done, like all these things where the conditions haven't been super insanely, easing, I guess, if you will. And, MicroStrategy or strategies now, talking about selling, all these different things that are going on. People feel the crypto markets, just in capitulation mode. Charles Hoskinson is, crying on YouTube. And it's just like, it's think about being an ETH holder. Like you have some fake token that you're holding and it does nothing. And you're down like what, 60 or 70% from the all-time high or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact numbers, but just getting blasted everywhere. And we're sitting here bitching and moaning about $60,000. This is why what Jerry said is so important. Like, you're getting cheap sats for your dollars. Someday, and George talks about this a lot too, Robin talks about this as well. Like, you're not going to be able to buy and use fake $1 for $1 or for Bitcoin. People won't accept it. And so you're going to have to mine it or work for it. And that day may be off, into the future, but your kids, your grandkids are surely going to love it. And someone just said this earlier too, which kind of piggybacks into my last thing I'll say, which is there's a couple people here. We love our boomers, talking about like, oh, you guys aren't really speaking to us. we're speaking to humanity. Like, I don't know about everyone else, but like, I'm here to separate money and state. I don't give a shit about investing in Bitcoin. I'm here to rip this stuff from satanic pedophiles that keep forcing us to use fiat currencies that steal from us every single day. That is psychosis. And that's what I'm here for. So there's no one like investing and trading. We talk about USD price and like everything we just talked about today to bridge to the normie world. But if that's the way we're thinking about it, we got to aim a little higher. Like we are uprooting the mainframe of society, the highest level of communication of society, which is the money that you can all over the world, price discovery, everything, price communication. Everyone can have 100 different languages, 1,000 different languages, and we all communicate through pricing. When you manipulate that, you screw up everything downstream. So I'm here to patch the oil spill at the top of the river so it doesn't affect everything downstream anymore. That's what I'm here for. So I just want to make that very clear that this is a show for every single age, for the 1-year-old to the 100-year-old and people that aren't born yet, et cetera, et cetera. So another amazing show, boys. Love being with you guys.
Really,
I wish I had a lighter.
really,
I'd light that right now.
really cool. I love
Brandon,
that.
Brandon.
I saw a comment here, and it kind of ties into what also like Jerry said. It said not sure what it's like where everyone else lives, but the average normie I interact with every day, they don't and won't get it. They'll ride the fiat boat right into the iceberg. They'll have no clue. And this is actually my main point always when people tell me, I mean, right now, they're not saying it. They'll come back when it's 100K, 150K, and 200K. When they say, oh, but it's already so high, it's already so developed. I'm late to the boat. I'm late to the train. Like I've missed the whole thing. I missed the bus. They say that they should have bought when it was 5K, 500, like $5. They cannot buy it now because it's too high. I hear that, first of all, from every single person in Bitcoin ever. Like nobody ever thought, oh, I'm early to this. Like nobody ever like had that mind when he first researched about Bitcoin. But what I tell people is go out on the street, ask 200 people, or if you don't have that much time, just ask 20 people about what Bitcoin is, what the difficulty adjustment of Bitcoin is, what the current price of Bitcoin is, how many Bitcoin there are currently in circulation, or how many Bitcoin there will always ever be in circulation. Just ask like 5 random basic level understanding Bitcoin question, and you will find that nobody can answer you 5 questions coherently. I would even challenge you to find one guy that can answer you 1 question correctly. And so we always think like, oh, it's already so developed because we're in our small little bubble. We listen to Bitcoin podcasts, we listen to Bitcoin live streams, we read Bitcoin books, and we're like, oh yeah, like it's 21 million, it's a difficulty adjustment, Satoshi Nakamoto, I know the price, I know all those small components of custody running your own node. But honestly, nobody has a clue about all the things that we are saying. If you listen to this right now, you are part of a 0.01% small elite that has all the insights. If you're buying right now, it, in my opinion, it is considered to be an insider trading. Like, because you have a clue about something in Bitcoin that nobody else has a clue about. Obviously, it's not insider trading, but I hope you get the point that I'm trying to make. Like you're getting something that 99.99% of the people have no clue about, and maybe never ever have a clue about, depending on how Bitcoin will scale and gets adopted in the future. So if you take anything from that, like we are beyond early in that revolution.
Dangerously early. Sailors learning that out a little bit right now as well. Just again, got to add that. Like this could take decades, so plan accordingly. Hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but it could, and you should plan accordingly.
And also, too, just real quick, I know we're going, but when people say about people stacking Bitcoin for the future, that's just going to be a small percentage of the planet. What we're trying to do, and like Brandon said greatly, we're trying to change the system, right? It's not about a bunch of people getting a bunch of Bitcoin and a bunch of whatever. That's why I tell people, just get 1 million sats. Get 1 million sats, because it's going to be so powerful. The main thing is we're trying to change the system to a fair system, right? Most people didn't get rich off Amazon. Most people didn't get rich off of the internet or whatever, all these early adopters on these paradigm shifting, technology shifting, world changing events. Bitcoin is an incredible technology, and it's going to be it's going to help people not by making them rich, but be able to go to work just like a normal person, stick what they do, being a plumber, being a whatever, and don't have to be a finance manager on the side, and they can save their money. That's what we're here for. It's not about them getting months. 90-something% of people are not going to save in Bitcoin right now, but they'll be able to save their energy in the future. And that's what we're working on for our kids, our grandkids, 80, 20, 40, 60 years from now. And we want to help humanity now. It just so happens we're going to be very, very rich doing it. All you guys listening to this. So again, all the people that are, saying, oh, I don't want to do it, and they don't understand. Again, it starts when Robin asked about, asking people about the difficulty adjustment, but I'll take it a step further. People don't even know what inflation is. They don't even know what that is. That's the basic of the system you're in now. They don't understand it. So again, we're too early, like George said in one of his videos. And again, just make sure you understand and keep in mind that we're here for humanity to get a better money and not just getting rich.
Yeah, and I think that I was just going to say a couple different things here. I mean, I could probably speak for the next 20 freaking minutes on everything you just touched on, you guys. But I would say, like, ask yourself this question. I think that this is kind of what I got from everything you guys were just saying. There's like, ask yourself this question. If everybody knew what we know, what do you think the price of Bitcoin would be? And I think that for me, it would be $100 million minimum, because you also got to ask yourself this follow-up question, which is, if the price was $100 million per Bitcoin and you had $1, would you trade it for a Satoshi? And everybody here would say yes, because one of those units is fake, requires zero energy, no idea how many exist. And one of those units is real, backed by energy, created by energy, fixed amount. We know how many there are. So don't try to rush this whole thing. And I think we're talking about the generations here. I don't give a shit what generation you were born in. I'm also talking to everybody, because nobody really has an advantage here. Whether you're looking at Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, boomers, it's like, no matter where you are, you're in the same spot. Because if you're a baby boomer, you probably have a bunch of capital from all the work you've done in your life that you can today put that into Bitcoin, way more than somebody who's Gen Z or a millennial, way more capital that you built up through your life that you can put into Bitcoin and get more for your family. Somebody who's Gen Z, they have nothing, but they have time. And so whatever the amount they stack today, by the time they're your age, will be about equivalent. So there's no real like winners and losers between generations here. It's just your perspective of it and how serious you want to take this. So I think that if you are watching this June 30th, 2026, you are a legend, because you've been through it now. You've been through the bear market. And I think that everybody has to go through this. And whether it does get to 30, 40, stays at 58, it doesn't matter. It's all going to be a rounding error. By the time people figure this out, it doesn't matter what you bought at, it's how much you got. And I think that that's, what we want here is more sats, more time, more energy. And then later in life, when we want to enjoy ourselves a little bit, we're going to have that time that we're buying right now. That's how I think about Satoshis, so like time in the future. And because nobody can cheat you, nobody can debase you, nobody can steal it from you, and nobody can stop you. And I think that's where everybody wants to be, whether they realize it or not. That's, I think, the goal for everybody here.
Awesome. I think we've made an amazing.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, like you wanna bring something up?
Shout out to who did we have here? I missed a couple. We had Robert with the very first fiat zap of the channel. We had I got my whole screen on there. That's okay. We had an Austrian economist. Geez, that's a hard word for me. Economist. I don't know where that went to, but thanks for the support today. And we had a couple people in the chat asking about where to go, where the QR code go. If you do want to, we don't have any sponsors on this channel. I don't know if we will, Robin, or not. We're kind of still going through that, but we earned our first $1.99 today. So I don't know how many shows
we had another one. We had another super chat too, I think.
Yeah,
People
we got a super chat.
Feeling generous today. Thank you guys.
If you want to support the channel and what we're doing here, the mission we're on, you can send it to this address, either using the QR code here or that bethechange@koinos.io. And we'll give you a shout out on the next show for anybody who's sent in some sats. We're still sitting at 0 there. Oh no, look at that. We got our first zap, boys.
You guys rock.
We got our first zap. Look at that.
You guys
Looks
rock.
like Sharon.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
No message though. Oh
Is
yeah,
that Sharon?
Cedar Sats. There we go. Great show from
Oh.
Cedar Sats.
Thanks,
And
Cedar.
we got 1845 now from Sin Diesel. Wow. Thank you, Cedar Sats. Thank you, Sin. We appreciate that very much.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
I think we can actually, like I just did that. I put the QR code on here, and it should be the same. It's the one
Yeah.
that Forrest sent me, and so like we just leave that in the background there, and maybe in the future we can even like have some kind of automatic thing popping up. If someone writes a comment, we can just like show it somewhere. I don't know if what we have to do for that. I don't know if that's easy to do from like a technology standpoint, but I think that's a nice little addition for people that want to send something and don't want to go through the fiat YouTube big tech things. We can go through the Bitcoin rails.
Yeah. We love YouTube. YouTube is the best. No doubt about it. If you're sending in value, send it through YouTube. I think they deserve a cut of it. That'd be my take on it.
Oh my goodness.
But somebody in the chat asked what this is, what WARAB stands for. Jerry answered it, and it stands for We Are Right About Bitcoin. And I figured at the bottom, I still feel very right about Bitcoin, even though the world's telling us otherwise. I think anybody who's put in the time and the energy knows that we are indeed right about Bitcoin.
Yeah, you got to hang out with Bitcoiners, and this is why these chats are so important. Doing this stuff, go to local meetups, go to conferences, because I vividly remember the very first in-person conference I ever went to was the bear market in 2022. It was the week FTX crashed. It was Pacific Bitcoin in Santa Monica, and you would never know we were at the depths of the bear market and 1,500 people there, and everyone was just high as a kite. I mean, just a lot. I mean, people are on their phones. You look around, people are just like smash buying Bitcoin. I mean, it was a sight to behold, and you really understand very quickly, like, yeah, we're playing a different game. And I had been in Bitcoin for a handful of years before that, and I'd never gone to, partly because of COVID and stuff like that too, obviously, but I'd never gone to an actual conference. And so yeah, it was just very enlightening to see, like, wow, there's really people that believe what I believe and see what I see. So it was very cool, because that's right when I found Bitcoin Twitter as well, because with my fiat normie world was on Instagram and Facebook and all this garbage, doing a lot of marketing there. And I got off Twitter because of the political, which I've told that story of getting out of politics in like 2010 to 2012. So got off Twitter, wasn't on it for 10 years, and then found Bitcoin Twitter and was like, oh, geez, like there's all kinds of people that believe just like I do. They see the uniparty, they see that it's not the money flows and all of it outside of politics, and how politics, everything is downstream from the money. And so that to me was very eye-opening. So again, zoom out. At the end of the day, it was 15.9 or whatever, hit a 15 handle at the bottom there with Sam Bankman-Fried and all that. So thanks for the zaps. Appreciate you guys. That's a great honor for the zaps and everything. So just hodl on, produce more than you consume, like everyone is mentioned here today. It's so simple. Again, Bob Proctor and Jim Rohn, right? What's easy to do is easy not to do, and it really is simple.
Awesome. Then thank you so much, Chua, for setting the zaps up. Thank you so much, Jerry, for being on and being a spontaneous guest of ours. I feel like the people have voted and they want to have you back on. So I don't know if you can make it, but I think now you have
the best six man in the league. Yeah, there you go.
Man in the league. We will have Rashad. we have Rashad soon back on. Also, thank you so much for Forrest for coming on today, and Brandon. I absolutely love your rants. It's always a pleasure to hear them every single Tuesday. It's makes me calmer about the world. So thank you so much, everyone, showing up. Also in the chat, we had really good engagement in the chat today. I don't take that for granted. I know how hard it was in the beginning to like get people off the remote islands of my channels, George's channels, Brandon's, and like Rashad's, and all of our remote channels or remote islands. And we want to get people talking about in the main chat, so we all kind of can come together and enjoy the Bitcoin theater, Bitcoin drama every single week. if you guys have nothing else, we'll end it here. And
I got one more
see you
thing.
guys next week. Yeah, go ahead.
I got a homework assignment for you, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to look at your Bitcoin in cold storage, your savings, and I want you to figure out what percentage of the money supply do you own. And then I want ask your AI assistant, ask them, hey, what if we divided it all out and said, hey, what can each individual have? And then look at what you have, and I think you'll be very happy. And then try to get more.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Great stuff,
So thank you
guys.
so much, guys, for showing up. As always,
Thanks,
we'll
Chad.
be back next Tuesday.